What is going on, everyone? We are back at Driven Auto Sports in Markham today. So last week you saw us do the rear subframe bushings, and today is going to be a bit of a hodgepodge of different things going on. Since we decided to do the bottom end of the motor, today we are going to be taking some measurements to make sure that we order the right pistons and rods and bearings, etc. to piece this K24 together. If we look in the corner here, we have the beautiful K24 Z7, the R40, back from the machine shop, and they've done a great job of cleaning it up and giving it a nice coat of paint. So we have this new-ish looking motor going in, and the cylinders have been polished out. What we have been able to confirm is that the cylinders are more or less still in round and have not had too severe of any gouges or anything like that, such that we'd have to get it re-machined. So we are going to be able to run the stock size cylinders, which would be great. Really easy to get a hold of. Nice and shiny in here. Probably will still do a bit of a wash before we get it finally assembled, given that, you know, it's gonna get some dust in here. So we'll just run some wire through the cylinder and as well as the oil passages. And right over here we have our rear differential out of the 86. Now the thing with the rear differential in the 86 is that stock it comes with a 4.1 final drive, which for a turbo build you probably want to go into the 3s just to make use of that boost. But because it is a bit of an involved job, and I do think if I were to swap it, it'd probably be a 3.9. Assuming everything goes well with the DCT with the 8 millisecond shifts, we're gonna try the 4.1 and see what happens. Maybe it's a mistake and it'll just run through the gears like crazy, but I don't think we're gonna be making that much torque out of this K24, so it might be okay. We'll be able to rev it to 8,000, and based on my calculations, top of 6th gear should be able to get to just under 270 kilometers per hour, which, you know, for the tracks in Ontario, I think that's actually going to be well suited. And we're still going to have that overdrive 7th gear for cruising on the highway. And based off of my calculations, we should be able to keep it around 3,000 RPM at cruising, which is really nice. I've been thinking a lot about BMWs lately now that I'm going to have a DCT in my car, and honestly, one of these E92 M3s with the V8, that'd be kind of nice to have just as a weekend driver, right? What do you guys think? BMW? No BMW? And the 86 now we have on the ground, waiting for all the other parts to come in. This fun black rubber dust that was airborne from our last video of burning out the bushings that just completely covered this car, but that's not really a big deal because this car definitely needs a full detailing, full decontamination. So we're gonna call up our buddies who are much better detailers than I am and just get this thing sorted before we hit the track for the first time, hopefully this summer. I've been talking a big game about the DCT, and just to kind of prove it, here it is right here, our DCT from an S55. So this transmission came out of a 2017 M4. Shout out to our friend Nate for hooking us up with this transmission. So as far as I know, this came out of a car with only about 60,000 kilometers, and you can tell like it is super clean. And you know, it was a Canadian car. Chances are it probably wasn't driven in the wintertime, just given at how clean this is. Now, if you know anything about these DCT swaps, one of the biggest players in this space is HTG Tuning with their GCU, or gearbox control unit. And to do the original gearbox control unit, what you would have to do is open up the mechatronics unit and do a pretty involved soldering job. Now, what that involves is basically taking off this cover, taking out the board, the PCB board, and then doing a ton of soldering. Now, since they came out with the GCU, they have also now come out with a CAN IO board, which really simplifies the process, where all you have to do, it basically acts as a GCU plus a jumper board, where you can just have a custom harness that will plug into the OE harness port on this GS7 transmission. So this little black port here, you see that there's going to be pins on the inside. We have a custom harness coming that's just going to plug straight into here, into the CAN IO board, and then to our Haltech. And of course, all of that is going to be coming from one of our great sponsors of this build, Seems Legit Garage. They're also going to be hooking us up with a bunch of other really nice billet pieces that are going to go on this transmission, because they have so much experience with this transmission. They come up with a lot of great parts that will help with the longevity and reduce the amount of maintenance and wear and tear that we have to deal with. Now when it comes to putting together these complex builds that are pretty unique, it's always a good idea to have a good relationship with a local parts distributor or retailer, and we've actually partnered with JRP, Johnson Research and Performance, to help put together this build. So some of the parts that we've ordered for the FRS, for the turbo case swap, has started to come in. And I just want to show you some of the stuff that we're gonna put into the car and why we decided on these pieces specifically. All right, so here's our first batch of stuff. So in no particular order, got a AIM CAN hub. So this will help us run the Solo DL as well as the Smarty Cam and any other AIM products that we want to run. We're going to be using Haltech to run the motor as well as our dash, and connecting to the HTG gearbox unit. So this is a CAN adapter that will allow us to run, I guess, 3 additional CAN products, and you can actually daisy chain these to add an additional 2 ports. Bunch of connectors from Vibrant for fuel, so these are like ORB to 6AN fittings. And we've got our Haltech boost control solenoid, and we have a beautiful Haltech IC7, so their digital dash display, and we're gonna just have that mounted probably to the steering column. I do want to keep the OEM cluster just for now, just in case, until we are fully satisfied that all the displays can be read out to the Haltech. And this is a pretty fancy piece. It's a company that I have not heard of personally, but JRP said that these units are real nice. This is a fuel pressure regulator from Nuke Performance, I believe it's called. So this is the -8 AN size fuel pressure regulator. Big piece right here is a catch can, the new catch can setups from Vibrant Performance. ATI super damper for the K series. Now, if you know about building Ks, they vibrate a lot, especially with the Type S oil pump. So this is going to be critical to keeping the motor in one piece. Alright, this one's a little bit heavy, so we'll just keep it in the box, but this is our housing for our G35 900 from Garrett. And over here we have tile, wastegate, and blow-off valve, matching black ones. These are going to be great. Injector dynamics. Now we did spring for an upgrade on these and decided to get, where's the label? The injector dynamics 1300s. Now the main reason we decided to go with the 1300s over what is typically the baseline install is usually like the 1050s. 1050s are much cheaper, and the reason why we went with the 1300s is we do want to get the car tuned for E85, and with E85, the 1050s with the K24 and a turbo, you're probably going to be running your duty cycle really, really high. We just wanted to get the extra headspace in case we needed to increase the fuel load and still keep the duty cycle manageable, you know, targeting around like below 80% kind of thing. Now obviously we've got a lot more parts on the way from JRP. We're going to be doing, as we mentioned, a full build on the K24, so we're going to have to be picking up some piston heads, some rods, bearings, and more stuff from Haltech is on the way, back ordered. Yeah, they should all be coming in very shortly, and we'll start assembling the car very, very soon. After watching tons of videos online on how to put together motors, shout out to Real Street J for all the great videos that they put on, what I've come to realize is putting motors together is mostly measuring. Tolerances are super, super tight. So what we're gonna do today is actually we've got the crank back from the machine shop as well. It's been polished out, and we're just gonna take some measurements with an outside mic so that we know, you know, is it within spec, factory spec of what the diameter for the journals should be, and then we'll order up the necessary bearings for this build. I think realistically it's probably going to be stock size, but we'll also order one size up just so we have the ability to mix and match, you know, one stock plus on a bearing if we want to get just a little bit more clearance for the oil. So here we have the printout service manual for the K24 Z7, and what we're going to be taking a look at in measuring is the main journals as well as the rod journal. So the tolerance is basically 2.164 to 2.1656 inches on the main, and the rods are 1 AAA or 1 quadruple A to 1.8897.
It comes with these, because this is for a 2 to 3 inch.
Yep.
So it doesn't close all the way. So it just comes with this like this pin right here. You basically just
that
measure.
zeroes it out, right?
Yeah, because this is a machine piece, right?
Yeah.
So it zeroes it out.
Kind of.
Yeah, you kind of want to do it on an axis just to make sure that like the measure
It's in round.
it's in round, but most of the time it's pretty good.
Do you have to kind of like slide it back and forth until?
Yeah, it's like the good thing with this clicker is that when you do it, and it's like when you do it, it starts clicking. See, and you just tighten it.
Yep, that's right.
And then 5.
Okay.
So then add 15. So 65.
2.1.
So 64.
2.164. So main 2.164.
Yep.
7.
Yep.
All right, she's locked now.
All right,
so
let's
2.
see. Yeah.
And where do I read the 1? Is it the vertical one there?
Yes. So what's the number that you see right now? 1, right?
Well, these ones 0, 1.
Yeah, 1. And then how many lines after the 1?
2.
So that's 5.
2.1.
5, and then you add the timbal.
5, and then.
So what's 50 plus? Are you at the 15 mark?
Yep.
Sorry.
Just a little bit over 15, or no, just a little under 15.
Okay, so then it's 14.
4. Well, it's closer to 15.
So what happens is when it's closer, it has to be dead straight on the line.
Really?
So yeah. So what so you do 6/4 because 50 plus
2.164. Yeah, that's what.
and then these lines here, you have to look which one lines up.
I see. 2.164. Where do I read to?
So whatever line
Yeah.
lines up with
It's
this
the perfectly
line is the
matched.
perfectly matched. Yes.
It's I would say it's a 6.
Okay, so that's 2.164.
Yep.
6.
2.1646.
Yep.
So we basically have everything measured out now. We are, from these measurements, basically on the low end of everything, which is kind of what we expected with 200,000 kilometers. We will get a chance to, once we get the bearings ordered up and kind of test fitted, to take the internal bore measurements. So I think we'll probably call it there for today. A lot of hodgepodge of stuff going through and trying to get everything organized, but it's really cool to kind of learn some of these new skill sets and trying to assemble a motor and doing the measurements. I will say it's much more of a therapeutic and almost like a meditative experience, as opposed to physically exerting yourself trying to wrench things loose or tighten things. You're just kind of making these minor measurements and throw on some music, throw on a podcast. It's a pretty fun experience. All right, so we'll catch you guys on the next one.